Hey everybody, welcome to Drive Thru Review 264. Today we're going to talk about Mr. Card Game, which is a strange game title, also some strange artwork. Now this is based on, it says, based upon the satirical web-based MMO, Massively Multiplayer Online game. And Kingdom of Loathing is kind of the setting. So it's very much a satirical, sort of a Munchkin-y kind of thing where it's making fun of MMO tropes or RPG tropes and things like that. Really bad artwork, but kind of bad on purpose. Everything is like a stick figure, a real quick sketch idea. Now it's kind of a deck building game, but I would say that's more part of the game than, you know, the complete focus of the game. Basically what you do is you have a deck of cards which are kind of like your stats. You have muscle and, you know, magic and sort of like a nebulous, I'll call it the green skill, which kind of uses for range and defense, but also kind of like critical hits and different things like that. So each player has a deck of those stat cards which you can upgrade, but you also have a display of items and basically three types of items: a weapon, a pants, and a hat. You always have those three item types, and then you maybe have some assortment of skills, and those are all kind of cards in front of you that you can acquire or get through defeating monsters. And it's basically a game about just kind of teching up and statting up your character to be able to defeat the naughty sorceress at the end. Now there are some other in-game conditions, expansion kind of things I'll talk about, but that's basically what it is, kind of a race to beat the boss. So with the deck building as a part of that. But before I get too much further, let's go ahead and look at how it plays, and I'll come back and tell you what I think. Okay, as you can see here, you're actually going to need a fair bit of table space. Let me just quickly go over some of the different types of cards, then I'll get into how a turn might work. Well, if we first look over here, we're going to see what the player starts with here. So you can see here is a weapon. They're going to start with this ninja sword, excuse me, a sweet ninja sword. And they're also going to get a Kentucky style derby hat and then a pair of studded leather boxer shorts. So you can see a couple of things here. First off, on the weapon, you can see this actually does 2 sort of melee damage. You're going to play muscle cards, which is a type of stat card with these. And it gives you, you can see also represented here in the text, melee damage +2, and then it gives you a little bit more of a detailed description there. You also have the sell value here, because as you sort of acquire maybe new weapons and things, you're going to sell the old ones and then equip the new ones. So you're always going to have a weapon, a hat, and some pants. And so this pants here, these actually add 1 to your defensive value, and again it's described down here as well, and also the auto sell there. Now the pants also is going to give you +1 defense, so these are your starting equipment, and you're also going to have here your starting stat cards. So you're going to have here 4 of these Mysticality type cards, and 4 of these Moxie cards, and 4 of these Muscle cards. So you have strength, and basically this one kind of acts as range and defense, as well as, you know, buffing up some other things. And then this is sort of like your intelligence and stuff like that, and this is going to help you buff these up. So every turn you're going to draw 6 of these, 6, and then you're going to be able to play these to usually just do combat with these. So you can say I drew 3 muscles, 2 intelligence, and then 1 of these green cards here. So you're going to have these to play, and then as you go through your deck, interestingly enough, when you go through your deck and you have to reshuffle and get new cards, you can trash one of the cards out of your deck, and you can either upgrade it, so I can go and grab a level 2 Mysticality card, or I can kind of swap it over. So if we take a look over here, we have our big display here of upgraded stat cards. So you can see we got 2, 3, and 4 in all of the different stats there. So if I wanted, I could upgrade, let's say, this Mysticality from a 2 to a 3, or I could also change it from a level 2 intelligence to a level 2 strength type of card. So that's how that goes. So you're going to want to be building these up and building your stats up to be able to fight the monsters here. And so, as I said in the intro, we basically are targeting, at least in the basic form of the game, here is the naughty sorceress here. Basically you need 20 attack to beat her, and then I'll explain how this works, but basically the first player to beat her is going to win the game. Now you can see the game also comes with location cards, and here is the sorcerer's tower where the naughty sorceress will be. It also comes with these kind of neat looking see, it's got that little, I don't know what it's like, a foil, but it's like foiled in only some spots. So it has these alternative boss cards here that you can fight there, and then actually on the back of her is a little upgraded sorceress there. and then some other things like that. So if you want to play like more difficult variants, there's that. It also has these other sort of expansion type things built in. You have Nemesises and different more locations and quest locations and different stuff like that. I've also seen on their website some other like specific classes that you can get. I don't know if those are going to be available later for download or for purchase, but if you go to this little whatever this barcode is with your phone or whatever, it has a nice wiki, goes over the rules, and just different, the rules are fine in the book, and also has the little videos there, and also has a little bit more about some of the expansion stuff. Rules are pretty straightforward. Like I said, it's pretty well laid out, nice examples and everything like that. So you basically have two parts to your turn. You have a non-combat phase and then a combat phase. Now, non-combat phase, you maybe be activating different skills, different buffs and things like that, consuming food and booze to kind of buff your character up. And then once you're done with that, then you're going to go into the combat phase where you're going to basically always kill a monster. Now I have these locations kind of roughly lined out here by their sort of strength and difficulty there. So if we take a look here, we can see you've got a level 1, and basically you need 1 attack power to defeat this guy here. He's a rushing bum, and you can see on the backside here you're going to get a bum cheek. And so that's showing you what the item you may get on the back. So you can see this is a replacement hat. It actually has 2 defense, and then it also has a little bit of an ability. It gives you 2 defense against other sleazes here. So you can see this is a monster of type sleaze there. And on these cards it also tells you what location you're going to be in. So he's going to go to Seaside Town. And what happens is once you defeat him, then at the end of the turn, then you're going to draw one from the bottom and put it on top. It's just kind of a way to keep the next one hidden so that you don't know what items you may get. Because as you play the game, it's a little bit interesting to try to learn the items. I don't know what it is. I think the line drawing has a little bit problem registering with my brain to remember, oh yeah, this does that. And it's also comical and satirical, so kind of the one-to-one is like, it's not a sword of +1, it's like a piece of bacon or something like that. So so basically be defeating monsters to get these items, add the items to your repertoire, and be able to kind of upgrade your skill over time. Now the other thing that you're going to get here when you defeat the monsters is you're also going to get a little stat of there, so you get kind of like 2 intelligence, and you're also going to get the meat drop. So the meat, which is these really neat looking plastic pieces here, is basically the currency, kind of like the gold in the game. So these look like little slabs of meat. You start the game with 5 of these, and you can use these to buy different skills and things. So that's kind of a general overview. Let's go over a quick kind of how a turn will work, and then we'll go from there. So here you can see this row of class skills here, and there's a good sized deck of these cards. You're always going to have 4 of these out, and then you can go ahead and purchase these cards for their meat cost here. So if we look here in the upper right, you can see there's the cost for the meat, and then again it has a nice little iconography. So this is going to give you +1 blue, which is going to be spell damage. So you can buy these and add these to your repertoire, and some of these are going to be sort of passive abilities. That's what I've got here. So these are always just going to kind of like always be on, but you may also have like different skills and things that you can use to kind of like a one-shot use. And this one here is a buff. So if it's a buff, it's actually going to come in tapped, and then you need to basically pay that cost to untap it. Then its effect will stay in place until you cycle through your deck. Now remember, when you cycle through your deck, you get to trash a card and upgrade your ability or your skill at something, and then these are actually going to basically re-tap, so you need to untap them again. It's sort of like a nice little progression and life cycle of your character. And as I said, you're going to get like food and booze and things like this that you may use. So you can see this: when you activate a booze ability, replace 1 stat card in your discard pile with the matching stat card, +1. So it's another way to kind of upgrade your different stats by eating and drinking different things. So a lot of the stuff you're going to do during your non-combat phase, buying new skills, maybe activating some of these skills and things like that, upgrading your stats. You can also equip any unequipped weapons that you have and sell off stuff, sell off skills, and you can sell stuff to the heap pretty much. So you have these auto sell values, like I said, and there's just going to be this big discard pile where players are going to sell things, and then you can basically buy stuff off the top of the discard pile. So that's one thing you do, is as you activate things, you kind of put them in a queue and then put them on the discard pile at the end of your turn. So it's one thing to kind of leave something good for somebody to be able to buy off the top of the queue there. So you're going to do all that, and then you're going to go into your combat phase. And that usually just consists of playing 1 or more of a certain type of card. So all of these things are going to trigger different types of damage. Now depending on the weapons and things you have, like if you have a melee weapon like you start with here, you're going to play 1 muscle here, and then so 2, 3, then I'm going to add the +2 here, so this is going to be 5 melee damage. Then I'm going to take a look over here. I'm going to see if there's any you know, monsters that I can beat there, and you're just looking at their power in the upper right hand corner there. So you just need to pick basically one type of damage, whether it be melee or magic or ranged and different things like that, and then go ahead and try to meet that power. So this is where you're going to get your items and weapons and things like I was saying. So here you've got a tomb bat and then a swarm of fire ants there. And so again, you can see the item that you're going to get. And then this is also going to be your meat drop, your money reward, and then also the stat that you're going to get. You're going to take these over, you're going to put these in front of you. They're not going to be equipped right away. You got to wait till your next non-combat phase. And then you can equip them and do different things. So this one, like, this is basically an item for combat damage. So this just adds any type of damage you want. Whereas this one here will either add 1 of your intelligence type of damage, your magic casting damage, or this is like 4 of your moxie damage, sort of like defensive damage, but you can kind of do that. And these are going to play green cards with, this one you'll play the blue cards with, because like I said, you play the stat card kind of matching whatever your best bonuses are. Now certain skills and weapons and things will have you sort of, you know, doing all kinds of different things. Like some of them may help you, if you play a bunch of the pink melee cards, if you throw in here some extra green cards, it will kind of do like a crit damage where you want to play mostly pink, but if you had a green, it'll add a little bit more. And some of these will have different, you know, always on abilities like that. So a lot of times it's kind of combing through these decks here to get your character built up. And then again, triggering either, you know, kind of one-time use skills or buffs and different combat items and getting rid of those for kind of one big shot effects. And that's pretty much the game. Basically doing a little bit of, you know, buying a new skills and things, and then, you know, doing different abilities and stuff, and then going into your combat and trying to do as much damage as you possibly can. Okay, hope you enjoyed the overview. This is an interesting kind of niche game, I think. It's cool because it's like a deck building game, and the whole mechanisms for going through your deck and upgrading your stats and kind of untapping your buffs is really neat. And I wish more games did that, where when you went through the deck, something happened. Another game I can think of is Friday, which is like a solo deck building game. Actually does that. You kind of like age as you go through your deck. And this one kind of feels like that. It's like, okay, I've gone through my deck a little bit, and I maybe fought a monster or two, and now I can upgrade a stat. And I feel like I'm kind of tacking myself to be more of a kind of a wizardy guy with intelligence, lots of different buffs. So I'm gonna upgrade my blue stat. Or I've got some nice weapons and stuff, so I'm gonna upgrade my pink, my muscle stat. So that's interesting concept, and you gotta like reactivate your buffs, kind of refresh all your, you know, your buffs, and go on to the next day. So that's cool. And I like that the deck building is kind of very, very secondary. It's just about your stat engine, and kind of feels like it's inside of you. This is me, these are my different stats, my attributes that I have, and I'm doing this. But I'm not mixing in the items and skills and weapons and things like that. That's all very external. And the money isn't mixed in, you know, because all the meat is basically the money. That's very external. And you really don't focus too much on the stats, really. You're focused more on kind of the economy of killing monsters, getting some money, buying some different skills, and really trying to sort of basically mold your character one way or the other. And that's really where I think the game does a very good job, and it's very cool because it feels like you have all these fantasy deck builders and different things that don't ever match the dang theme, you know? They just don't. Mechanically, they don't work for me. But this one actually does, like, because you have your stat core inside of you, you're managing that, and then cool, I'm getting a weapon. I always have that weapon. I don't have to wait for it to come back out of my deck. But I still have that deck building aspect and still the money management aspect, and I feel like my character's, you know, right here in front of me. And, you know, I've got to control the different stats and things. Whereas, you know, it's just like everything's like, okay, put everything in the deck. You know, and then we'll just, if they draw a weapon, they draw a weapon. If they draw a soldier, they draw a soldier, whatever. And it's like, okay. But this is cool because the way the deck building works, you feel like the progression, and you feel like the sort of arc of your character is happening. That works really well. And it's kind of an interesting little race. I do think the game, and I haven't played it with any of the expansion stuff, I just played the basic, like, kill the sorceress thing. And that's fine, it's kind of a nice kind of fillery little deck builder. And I see they have different classes you can do with some different item cards and different sort of nemesis that you can throw in that kind of bounce off the different classes and stuff. That seems a little bit more interesting to me, but it's not the components I have available. But kind of from a strategic perspective, it's like, you know, you kind of like, okay, I can hit this monster, it's the biggest monster. I can, you know, in this turn I can hit one of these 3 monsters, take a look at the cards, flip them back down. Okay, I'm gonna hit this, go. But it's cool because other people can be kind of looking at the monsters while you're doing your thing. So at first I was like, God, I have to keep flipping over every single card. Well, no, you just flip over a couple that you can hit. And then while you're doing your thing, everybody's like, okay, I can hit that. All right, so that by the time people have taken a couple turns, it kind of gets going pretty well. But strategy-wise, this is like, okay, buy this, it looks good, go. But I don't think it's meant to be strategic, it's meant to be kind of thematic. But it's interesting because it's like, I'm thinking about it, it's like, okay, well, what if this is like traditional, like a D&D kind of thing, or just traditional fantasy stuff? Would it be as interesting? And I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel like it would be because I think it'd be more accessible. I think some people are going to be turned off by the line art and stuff. Some of the cards are pretty funny, you know, but it's kind of like a one-time deal. But the game is interesting enough that you can come back to it and kind of play it almost as a filler. And speaking of filler, it takes, I don't know, it doesn't take an hour, but it takes like 45 minutes or so, I guess. It's not super quick, but it's also, it doesn't really overstay its welcome because you can kind of tech up, you know, once you kind of figure out how to just shuffle the cards around, you're pretty much going along. So it's interesting. It's kind of an interesting, you know, idea with having the stat cards as your deck, and you know, having the different items and things that you can use and fire off your abilities and stuff. So I really like it. It feels very thematic in a way, even though it's very much a satirical theme. You know, when I'm kind of doing and popping off my my magic item and stuff and using that and kind of spending all my intelligence or my blue stat on the thing, it does feel very cool. Like I feel like I'm a character actually doing the thing instead of just burning through cards and stuff. So I like the system that they've made here. But I'm not familiar with the video game or anything. But I think fans of the video game, I don't know, I think they would get a kick out of it. So hopefully they do. Okay, so that is Mr. Card Game. Very different game. Definitely solid mechanisms and everything. And so it does its trick. So anyway, thanks.